You weren't undone by your inherent weakness. You were undone because you never truly grasped the game. No one armed you with the essential rules. No one taught you the brutal art of self preservation. You were never warned that survival sometimes demands silence, that to endure the storm, you may need to wield ruthless precision. From the cradle, they fed you platitudes: be good, be kind, be humble, be forgiving. But they conveniently omitted the most critical lesson: the world doesn't operate on kindness, it operates on perception. And perception, my friend, is rarely fair. You can be a titan of intellect, a paragon of sincerity, but if you remain ignorant of the true currency of power, if you fail to discern when to speak with force and when to dissolve into strategic silence, you become nothing more than prey. In this ruthless arena, naivety is a slow, agonizing poison, and kindness devoid of armor, stripped of boundaries, is a glaring target. A beacon for those who smile as they drain your very essence, who meticulously study your light only to extinguish it. The real question isn't how inherently good you are, it's how much control you retain when cornered. Can you master your tongue? Can you look a traitor in the eye and pretend not to see the blade? This isn't a sermon on morality. This is a survival code, a stark, urgent warning. Because if you fail to become sharper, more silent, more strategically calculated, you won't need to be destroyed by an external force. You will quietly, gradually dismantle yourself from the inside out. The betrayal of false ideals, when kindness becomes a liability. They whispered sweet nothings, promising that virtue was its own reward. They told you being good was sufficient, that if you worked tirelessly, loved with fierce devotion, remained unyieldingly loyal, life would inevitably crown you with rewards. But they forgot to detail the crushing cost. They omitted the chilling moments when you'd find yourself standing utterly alone after pouring your very soul into people who never even bothered to glance back. They left out the deafening silence that follows every sacrifice, the hollow echo in an empty room after a heartfelt apology, the chilling indifference in their eyes when they finally realized you were never dangerous enough to warrant genuine respect. You clung to the fairy tale of cosmic fairness. You believed that unwavering kindness, coupled with humble self effacement, would somehow balance the scales. But life isn't a ledger. It's a brutal, unforgiving force, and it thrives on the unaware. No one shattered your illusions by revealing that in this world, perception holds more weight than truth. That silence can reverberate louder than any words. That the one who walks away first, who makes the conscious choice to disengage, always holds the power. They demanded you be strong, but their perverted version of strength meant swallowing your pain, nodding in agreement, when every fiber of your being screamed to walk away, apologizing profusely while you were still bleeding from their wounds. You revered loyalty as an unassailable virtue, yet they wielded it like a chain, not to acknowledge your presence, but to tightly control your inherent fear of their absence. You were never truly weak. You were merely unarmed. And in a world where power is the only true currency, you paid for your naivety with your peace over and over again in a relentless, silent transaction. This is the agonizing truth. No one dared to whisper the crushing realization that the rules you were meticulously taught were never designed to protect you. They were designed to tame you. You became a creature of predictability, too, forgiving, too readily available, too disarmingly honest. In a game built on smoke and mirrors, They saw your genuine light, and instead of safeguarding it, they methodically drained it, because light in the hands of the naive becomes nothing more than a beacon for predators. And here, in stark relief, is the truth they stubbornly refuse to teach. Kindness without strategy is a fatal liability. Empathy without impenetrable boundaries is an open, festering wound. Love devoid of sharp discernment inevitably spirals into self destruction. They did not prepare you for this harsh reality. They prepared you for the comforting fictions of bedtime stories, for the sanitized narratives of fairy tales. They left you utterly exposed in the shadows, in the hushed rooms, where true power is traded in silence, where raw emotion is currency, and where meticulously crafted appearances are everything. The game of control, mastering your emotional sovereignty. You constantly find yourself bewildered. Why do the loudest voices triumph? Why do manipulators ascend to power with such terrifying ease? Why do those who lie cheat and offer saccharine smiles seem to thrive effortlessly? It's not because they possess a superior moral compass. It's because they grasp a fundamental truth you overlook. They understand leverage. They know how to skillfully manipulate emotions, how to bend perception to their will, and most crucially, how to guard their energy as if it were sacred. And you continue to squander yours, not because you're weak, but because no one ever taught you the discipline of holding on to it. This world doesn't systematically crush the strongest among us. It crushes the unaware. It lavishly rewards those who possess the chilling ability to detach, who can sit unflinching in the heart of the fire, who can offer a disarming smile even as they prepare to walk away, taking all their power with them. So if you're drowning in hurt, if you're bewildered by why they abandon you when you need them most, why your unwavering loyalty is never reciprocated, why your boundless kindness is perpetually overlooked, this is the reason. You were meticulously taught how to love, but never how to protect yourself while loving. You were taught how to give, but never when to stop. And now the time has come to learn the crucial missing chapters. The part Machiavelli intimately understood that in a world teeming with masks, you must become a mirror, reflect their nature, reveal absolutely nothing of your own, and allow their true selves to expose themselves in the unforgiving light of their own actions. Because power, true power, is never handed to you. It is taken silently, strategically, without a single apology. They fed you the lie that feeling deeply makes you inherently human, that wearing your heart exposed on your sleeve is an act of courage, that emotional honesty is the ultimate strength. But the world doesn't reward vulnerability. It meticulously studies it, and then it exploits it. You mistakenly believe people respect your openness. They don't. They observe it. They meticulously track your reactions. They watch with predatory precision where you flinch, where you break what makes you bleed. And one day, with chilling calculation, they will use it against you. Not necessarily because they are inherently evil, but because power by its very nature demands leverage, and your raw, untamed emotions provided them with the perfect map to your vulnerabilities. The individual who wins in this world is not the loudest voice, not the physically strongest, but the most emotionally disciplined, the one who possesses the chilling capacity to feel everything but show nothing, because emotions in the wrong hands are nothing less than currency for thieves, and you, in your naivety, have been handing out your riches for free. They commanded you to speak your truth, to bravely show your pain, to let yourself feel, but they conveniently omitted the exorbitant cost. Because once you lay bare your wounds, you are no longer mysterious. You are no longer a perceived threat. You become predictable, accessible, controllable. The seemingly emotionless individual isn't cold. They are meticulously calculated. They don't react impulsively. They respond deliberately. There is a profound difference. Reaction is an unthinking impulse. It leaks your power. Response is a measured, controlled decision, often deadly when strategically necessary. But you, trapped in your desperate need to be understood, forgot this. You forgot that not everyone deserves to understand the intricacies of your soul. You mistakenly believe your tears display courage, that your softness will somehow earn mercy. But it doesn't. It signals permission, and they, sensing your vulnerability, will push the knife deeper, not always out of malice, sometimes simply because they can. So, what is your default next move? You defend yourself, you over explain, you overreact, and in doing so, you systematically lose leverage. That is the insidious trap. They provoke, they trigger, and suddenly you find yourself frantically justifying your reality to people who never harbored the slightest intention of understanding it. Meanwhile, they remain perfectly calm, impeccably composed, utterly untouchable. You mistakenly believe silence signifies defeat, but silence is power. It forces others to guess, to scramble, to project their own anxieties and insecurities onto your stillness. And in their desperate scrambling, they inadvertently reveal their true selves. They perpetually underestimate the one who speaks last, if at all. Machiavelli, the master of realpolitik, knew the one who controls the tempo of the interaction controls the outcome. It's not about being devoid of feeling. It's about not leaking. It's about refusing to bleed in front of those who would eagerly drink from your open wounds. To triumph in a world like this, you must become emotionally sovereign. You must be able to sit calmly in the eye of the storm without becoming the chaos. You must feel the fire's intense heat without allowing it to consume your core. Consider those who truly intimidate you. They are rarely the loudest, the most boisterous. They are the ones who observe, still, focused, unbothered, because they possess an unshakable inner knowing of who they are, and they feel no desperate need to prove it to anyone. You don't become powerful by reacting to every stimulus. You become powerful by mastering your signal, by learning to discern which emotions are genuine insights and which are merely echoes from old, unhealed wounds. The emotionless individual wins not because they are heartless, but because they are not enslaved by the volatile dictates of their own heart. They love, they hurt, but they never allow these powerful forces to override their strategic clarity. And when the moment demands decisive action, they strike not from impulsive reaction, but from profound, calculated clarity. Your emotions are not your enemy, but they are most certainly not your sole guide. They are signals, not instructions. You must possess the chilling capacity to stand unyielding in the storm and see clearly, to hear the insult and say nothing, to feel the profound sting of betrayal and show nothing, not because you are numb, but because you are watching. And in your watchful stillness, you gain immense power. You gain impeccable timing. You gain absolute control. Because when others explode in emotional chaos, you remain. That is the silent, unstoppable victory of the emotionally disciplined, redefining kindness, the sword of self preservation. They promised you that kindness would magically unlock every door, that being good would render you unforgettable, that if you just loved hard enough, stayed soft enough, waited long enough, they would finally see your worth. But they lied, because society doesn't reward indiscriminate kindness. It mercilessly exploits it. Kindness devoid of boundaries systematically devolves into servitude. And servitude, my friend, is a silent, insidious form of slavery. You naively believe being kind makes you noble, but they, sensing your vulnerability, interpret it as weakness. Not because kindness is inherently wrong, but because most people are simply not strong enough to handle it with integrity. They mistake your generous spirit for guilt, your compassionate silence for passive submission, your boundless patience for tacit permission to take. You become the perpetually agreeable one, the tireless forgiver, the absorbent sponge for their emotional mess. And then you wonder why you feel hollow, why your presence is perpetually expected, but never genuinely cherished. Here's the brutal truth: society doesn't desire you to be strong, sovereign, or self governed. It desires you to be agreeable. It craves your predictability, your emotional availability on demand. It relentlessly programs you to believe that your value is solely defined by what you can give, not by who you intrinsically are. So you continue to perform to plaster on a smile, to shrink your authentic self to fit their expectations. They applaud the helper, the giver, but they conveniently forget that the helper too has wounds. Wounds no one ever bothers to ask about because you, in your relentless giving, have trained them not to. You've become undeniably useful, and that precisely is why they keep you close. Not because they genuinely love you, but because you are convenient. Machiavelli, the unflinching realist, issued a timeless warning. In a world built on profound illusion, kindness must be weaponized, or it will be devoured. You persist in believing kindness will somehow save you. It won't. It will bury you. Beneath their relentless chaos, beneath responsibilities that were never yours to begin with, beneath the insidious lie that to be loved you must be needed. But love that requires utility isn't love. It's a cold transactional exchange. And the more you give without the sharp edge of discernment, the more invisible you become. Not because you're not enough, but because you're everywhere accessible, affordable, replaceable. That is the fundamental lie that kindness alone is power. It's not. Kindness without strength is mere noise. Kindness without strategic distance is self erasure. And kindness without unflinching clarity is a mask you wear while slowly, irrevocably disappearing. They commanded you to always be nice, but niceness is not kindness. Niceness is fear dressed in polite camouflage, fear of confrontation, fear of rejection, fear of the terrifying solitude of standing alone. True kindness, the potent transformative kind, requires a spine. It demands the courage to utter the word no. It requires silence, where noise is expected, unyielding boundaries, where access is blindly assumed, and sometimes the quiet, dignified act of walking away with nothing but your intact self respect. That is the kind of kindness that disrupts the established order, that rewrites the dynamics of power, that forces people to confront their own entitlement. You mistakenly believe you're losing people when you finally dare to speak your truth, to set a boundary, to prioritize yourself. No, you're merely losing the illusion of connection, the superficial kind built on your perpetual yes, your endless bending, your tireless efforts to always be the bigger person. But here's the brutal truth: always being the bigger person is precisely how you lose yourself. You become the convenient cushion for their chaos, the unpaid therapist for their unresolved trauma, the willing savior for their self sabotage. And when you finally collapse, when you inevitably break under the accumulated weight, they won't remember your boundless kindness. They'll resent your sudden silence, your inconvenient absence, because you dared to stop performing for them. This is why you must, with unflinching resolve, stop confusing kindness with availability. You are not here to be anyone's emotional crutch, to soften every blow, to be passively digested, merely tolerated, or ruthlessly used. You are here to stand clear, sharp kind, but never ever naive again. Because kindness is not about how much you give, it's about how well you protect what you have: your energy, your boundaries, your dignity, your very soul. The architecture of perception building your own kingdom. Power. Real power isn't about truth, it's about perception. And no one understood that chilling reality better than Machiavelli. The masses, the crowds, do not follow what is objectively real, they follow what looks real. Appearances matter more than verifiable facts, and the man who controls the image, who sculpts the perception, inherently controls the outcome. You don't have to be morally right. You just have to appear absolutely certain to project an image of being on the right side. Because perception is the battlefield, and most people don't even realize they're at war. You tirelessly try to prove yourself. You explain. You clarify. You bravely lay bare your heart. But while you're meticulously revealing your truth, someone else is shrewdly crafting their illusion. And the world, the merciless world, relentlessly rewards illusion. That is why Machiavelli never advised you to be good. He advised you to appear good, to master the subtle, intricate art of seeming, to wear the right mask for the right room at the precise right time. You might label that manipulation. Perhaps it is. But so is every glossy advertisement you've ever absorbed. So is every politician's meticulously curated smile. So is every carefully curated, authentic post you scroll past online. The world isn't patiently waiting for your raw, unvarnished truth. It's waiting to assign you a role. And if you fail to choose it, you will be cast without your consent in someone else's play, a mere bit player in their narrative. You must control how they perceive you, or accept the bitter consequence of being perpetually misunderstood, misrepresented, and used. There is no neutral perception. Every silence you choose, every word you speak, every posture you hold, all of it constructs an image whether you desire it or not. So ask yourself with brutal honesty, are you actively sculpting that image, or are you passively letting it be sculpted for you by the whims and needs of others? You mistakenly believe people are relating to who you truly are, your authentic self, but the majority are merely relating to the version of you that best serves their needs, the perpetually calm one, the reliably funny one, the one who never disrupts the comfortable status quo. And the very moment you dare to break that carefully constructed script, they panic. Why? Because their convenient version of you begins to shatter. This is why power, true, unassailable power, begins with self-awareness. You cannot possibly control perception if you are fundamentally blind to the role you are already playing in the lives of others. Machiavelli, advising rulers, warned, never show your full hand, Never reveal your entire intent. Let them guess. Let them wonder. Let them underestimate. Because when they are uncertain of your capabilities, when they cannot fully read you, they cannot effectively defend against you. Use half truths like strategic mirrors. Show just enough of what they expect, what calms their anxieties, but never the full revealing picture. Keep the real power, your true intentions, perpetually behind the curtain. That is how you move, not like a clunky soldier, but like an elusive ghost. Calculated, deliberate. You control the narrative not by screaming, not by furiously defending your honor, but by meticulously designing the atmosphere in which you exist. Perception is a frame, and whoever builds the frame ultimately defines the story. You cling to the idea of being real, authentic, but realness without strategy is nothing more than self sabotage with noble intentions. So ask yourself again with piercing clarity, what do people truly see when they look at you? Is it the image you chose to project, or is it the convenient version they needed you to be for their own purposes? You don't need to lie. You need to understand. Truth is a tool, a weapon, a shield. And how you deliver it when you choose to reveal it is what fundamentally determines your position, your leverage, your very outcome. Because in the end, it's not the truth itself that changes the world. It's who controls the lens through which that truth is seen. The myth of loyalty, the end of self betrayal. You were taught to value loyalty above all else, to stand unwaveringly by others, to believe in bonds that once formed would last forever. But loyalty, in its purest, most unwavering form, is exceedingly rare. More often than not, what you call loyalty is a lie, because people are not truly loyal to you. They are loyal to their own needs. And the very moment you cease to serve those needs, the moment you become inconvenient, challenging, or no longer provide them with comfort or advantage, the bond breaks. It's not a personal betrayal. It's business. It's instinct. It's survival. You mistakenly believe loyalty signifies permanence and unbreakable pact. But in this ruthless world, loyalty is a contract written in disappearing ink. It holds until it doesn't, and when it inevitably dissolves, you'll almost certainly be the last one to know. Machiavelli, ever the realist, warned, men are fickle. As long as you give them comfort, hope, advantage, they'll call you king. But take one thing away, and the same people who praised you will turn without hesitation. This isn't pessimism. This is unvarnished realism. You gave your heart, your energy, your all. They, in return, gave you conditions. You offered unwavering loyalty. They offered fleeting convenience. And when circumstances became even remotely uncomfortable, they disappeared. Why? Because most people don't genuinely love you. They love how they feel around you. They love the convenient version of you that caters, that listens endlessly, that tirelessly fixes their problems. And when that version of you fades, when you stop performing that role, so do they. You believe this hurts because it's unfair. But what truly cuts the deepest is the agonizing realization that you built your entire world, your very sense of security, on false assumptions. That if you were good, you'd be safe. That if you were loyal, you'd be unequivocally loved. But loyalty untested is merely fantasy. Only intense pressure reveals truth. Only profound loss reveals true alignment. Look around you. How many truly stayed when you had nothing left to give, when your wellspring ran dry? How many chose you when you weren't performing, when you weren't providing a tangible benefit? How many loved you not the version they benefited from, but the raw, unadorned soul beneath the rolls. Loyalty isn't measured at your peak, it's measured in your fall. And tragically, most people vanish before you even hit the ground. So shatter the myth. Stop betting your soul on this fantasy. Stop confusing a shared history with a guaranteed shared future. Stop calling it loyalty when it's nothing more than ingrained habit, silent obligation, or comfortable dependency. True loyalty is rare and it's quiet. It doesn't demand applause. It doesn't require titles. It doesn't need your self destruction to prove its existence. But most of what you've labeled loyalty was merely dependency in disguise, control subtly wrapped in the guise of affection, manipulation expertly sold as unwavering support. And if you don't learn to see through these insidious veils, you will continue to hand your trust, your peace, your very being to people who only know how to hold you when it's easy, when it benefits them. Machiavelli never taught you to expect loyalty. He taught you to manage it, to reward it judiciously when it appears to meticulously test it before you ever fully trust it, to never build your castle on ground that hasn't been profoundly shaken by adversity. Because if loyalty hasn't been tested, it's not loyalty, it's merely potential. And you cannot build a winning strategy on potential, only on irrefutable proof, on observed patterns, on the crucible of pressure. So, what is your course of action now? You stop expecting permanence. You stop desperately needing guarantees. You start watching patterns instead of clinging to empty promises. You read actions, not just soothing words. And above all, you stop betraying yourself, your values, your truth, your essence, just to cling to the fragile hope that someone else won't. Loyalty should never ever cost your boundaries. It should never demand your silence. It should never require you to erase yourself from the equation. Because loyalty that demands your very soul isn't loyalty, it's ownership. And you, my friend, you don't belong to anyone but yourself. The path to sovereignty, unlearning and becoming, undeniable. If you don't meticulously build your own strategy, you will inevitably be used in someone else's. And if you fail to learn the unforgiving rules of this brutal game, you will continue to lose predictably to those who do. It's no longer enough to merely be aware. You must be prepared, because in a world relentlessly driven by control, passive acceptance is nothing less than suicide. So, how do you finally stop being crushed? You stop waiting for fairness to descend from the heavens. You stop begging for decency from those incapable of offering it. You stop operating under the naive assumption that the world owes you kindness simply because you offered it first. You don't get crushed because you're not good enough. You get crushed because you were never strategically trained to protect yourself. So, the first most critical step is to unlearn. Unlearn the insidious belief that love equals self sacrifice. Unlearn the dangerous idea that silence inherently earns respect. Unlearn the deeply ingrained instinct to over explain your boundaries and actions. Because power doesn't explain. Power moves quietly, with precise intention, without a single apology. You yearn to stop being the one perpetually left behind, overlooked, and used. Then stop being the most available. Stop being the one who breaks first under pressure. Stop being the one who desperately needs to be understood before taking action. You don't need validation. You need clarity. You don't need more people to like you. You need fewer people to access you. Control your environment. Control your presence. Control your energy. not by becoming rigid or cold, but by becoming precise. Set boundaries that are so clear they don't even need to be spoken. They are communicated through your behavior. Let your very energy convey what your words no longer will. And when people test, you don't explain. Respond through behavior, through strategic withdrawal, through calm indifference, through the unshakable certainty of your presence. Because that is where power truly lives, in the absolute ability to detach without losing your core self. Machiavelli never advocated for cruelty. He advocated for strategy. Mercy without control is nothing more than weakness. Compassion without clear, unyielding limits leads to your own erosion. You don't become powerful by being feared. You become powerful by being unreadable, unshakable, unpredictable. You don't chase, you calibrate, you observe, you patiently let others reveal their true nature. Then and only then do you decide if they have earned access to your mind, your precious time, your very essence. You want to stop being crushed, then stop showing your blueprint to people who only came to copy it. Stop giving people the benefit of the doubt before they have genuinely earned your trust. And most critically of all, stop betraying yourself in the name of connection. You are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to become formidable. And that doesn't mean becoming cold or heartless. It means becoming whole. So, what do you do now? You stop explaining your worth. You start moving like someone who already inherently knows it. You stop desperately hoping they'll change. You change the room you're standing in, or you simply leave it. You stop waiting for them to finally see your light. You become the one who, with quiet authority, turns it off until they have demonstrably earned the right to witness it again. You stop desperately seeking peace with people who deliberately create chaos just to feel a fleeting sense of being alive. You stop making yourself smaller, softer, safer, just to be chosen to be accepted. Because the truth is, you don't need to be chosen. You need to choose yourself so clearly, so powerfully, that anyone who doesn't rise to meet your standards automatically disqualifies themselves from your life. That is how you stop being crushed by becoming the very pressure they cannot apply, the silence they cannot decode, the standard they cannot manipulate. You become your own kingdom, your own law, your own weapon, and your own sanctuary. You don't need to become ruthless. You need to become real, not the diluted version they trained you to be, not the compliant mask that made you accepted, but the unshakable presence that doesn't apologize for existing, because the world doesn't shift when you scream for it. It shifts when your silence carries weight, when your withdrawal fundamentally rewrites the dynamics of the room, when your no stands unyielding without shaking, without guilt, without a second glance. You've spent too many years asking the wrong question: will they still love me if I change? But here's the one that matters: will you still respect yourself if you don't? Because if you fail to evolve, you will perpetually replay the same betrayal, not theirs but yours. You'll betray your own standards to stay liked, your own truth to stay safe, your very essence to stay chosen. What truly needs to change is not the people who keep walking away. It's the part of you that keeps opening the door, inviting them back into a cycle that drains you. What needs to change is not how much you love, it's how much of yourself you tragically abandon in the desperate pursuit of being loved. You are not here to be digested. You are not here to be predictable. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to become undeniable to yourself. Let them mislabel you. Let them misunderstand your stillness. Let them fear your silence. Because when they do, you've finally stepped outside their control, outside their game. This is your power, not the kind that dominates through force, but the kind that endures quiet, precise, utterly unmoved. You don't need more words. You need more presence. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You need to remember everything. Remember the moments you betrayed your own gut instinct, just to be liked, the silence you swallowed, so others wouldn't feel uncomfortable, the times you begged for loyalty from people who couldn't even give you basic honesty. That was the crushing cost. But this is the shift. This is the moment you stop shrinking, stop pleasing, stop performing, and you start moving like what you truly are, not broken, not bitter, but awake. The kind of awake that makes people uncomfortable, the kind of awake that no longer needs permission, the kind of awake that will never be crushed again.